this video, I'm going to talk about tips for finding acceptance and how to own your journey. And when I speak of these things, this is more from sort of my experience overcoming things like physical trauma. And I feel some of the tips and what I'm about to share may resonate in other areas, in other things that you may be going through. It's not specific to physical trauma per se. I'm just, I guess, describing what I went through in the hope that maybe some tips and some mindset shifts may work for you. Everyone obviously goes through their own levels of trauma, and what worked for me may not work for you. The hope is maybe these little mindset shifts may kind of help change perspective and may help kind of guide you in a different direction that you may that you may find that may help. Certainly, with example, my after my operation of getting my stoma bag, I felt very isolated. I fell very much like a victim mindset. Certainly things, because obviously I was fit and healthy 1 minute, and then in the space of about 5 weeks I'm kind of near no longer being here. And I think naturally my body had changed. Like physically I was different, I looked different, I felt different. And I think where the victim mindset came in, certainly on like society of like body imagery, what we feel or told we should feel and look like, and things like that didn't help. So like when these things happen, I felt my life is over. Like, what did I do to deserve this? Why did this happen to me? Am I ever gonna get back to normal again? Like what bad karma did I have that potentially brought this on? Would good karma make up for it? Just things like that. And certainly like a body imagery things like, well, I'm a single guy going through his change. Like, is anyone going to find me attractive? Am I going to be accepted? Forgetting the fact that I needed to I needed to accept myself first. And those were some of the thoughts that were naturally kind of coming in, and kind of how I saw myself, the impact that it had, and because I didn't see myself as like normal, that I questioned my own happiness a lot of times, where I'd stop being myself, I would stop smiling. Almost felt like because I'd gone through this trauma, the natural like thing to do was I had to feel sorry for myself. I had to go into this like pity party, that any kind of joy I had was like, well, why am I smiling? Why am I happy? Like, I've just gone through this. I should be miserable for the rest of my life. And then whether I deserved it, these are the kind of the things that I was telling myself, based on what I feel like I should be feeling at the time, and sort of losing myself. I think because of that, I felt like I couldn't be myself anymore. Just those weird misperceptions that this kind of trauma was naturally giving me of the things that I feel like I should be doing or should be feeling. And certainly didn't feel, with the physical side, I didn't feel like I was at one with my body. I think because I'd gone through this change, and because my body had been letting me down so much, naturally those feelings and thoughts came in again. And ultimately it just felt like life just sucked, and nothing was going my way. And at points it just felt like I didn't want to be here anymore. And there was never a case of taking my own life as opening up to it now and being vulnerable to it. I knew it was just a case of I didn't want to feel this way anymore. But at that point I didn't know what to do about it. And I think no matter what I tried, I did try things like certain therapies, things like CBT, general talking therapies, even specialised counsellors within sort of IBD, where I had ulcerative colitis. There were counsellors that sort of specialised in sort of living with that condition, and it was no fault of those therapists at all. I think what I what I soon realised, it wasn't, I felt like I didn't feel like acceptance was trying to constantly talk about it and understand what was going on. I think for me it was just changing my mindset of how I looked at things and what had happened. And like ultimately, just like I knew when I was in my recovery, I was like, well, life can suck. It's the truth. It's not fair. It doesn't. And this might trigger a lot of people that are going through stuff now, but it's just the truth in that, yeah, life does suck. It doesn't owe you anything, even if you feel like you are a good person. Things just they just happen with no, well, at the time you feel like there's no reason, no answer for it as to why it's happening. And I think ultimately it's up to you what you then want to make of it. And you can't control you can't control what happens, but ultimately you can control how you deal with it. I don't know, one of the key changing points for me and finding acceptance in what happened to me and my condition and living with my my stoma bag was, I remember speaking to a friend that I'd just met, and I remember saying to him, because I was like really down and miserable at the time, and so I said, like, I really wish we'd have met when I was, before this all happened. And I remember them saying that, well, I don't want to know that person. I want to get to know this version. And I think, and that was the big light bulb, like the big epiphany, film style epiphany for me, in that I think that was it. It wasn't, I was spending so much time trying to get back to the person that I was or thought I was supposed to be, that I soon realised that this is like, okay, well, this is a new chance, a new beginning. Who do I now want to be because of what I've gone through, rather than trying to go back to normal? And a lot of times, like, there's no such thing as normal, and that's okay. And I think that's why maybe a lot of people struggled from like trying to get around the whole COVID situation, was I think mentally people wanted to get back to normal, and I think there was soon this realisation that there is no normal, and I think that's okay. And as soon as you realise that it's not a bad thing, I think you then get to make of the situation what it is, and then you're in charge of, okay, so what do I want to be now? What's the person that I want to be now? Who do I want to become because of what I've gone through? And certainly in this situation, when the physical changes happen, sometimes you also have no choice. And I think that's another key thing as well. It's like when you're trying so much to kind of get over things and trying to move backwards, and it's almost like, well, the step is it's just accepting that, like, I have no choice. Like, I have to get through this. I can't wallow in self-pity. I can't feel sorry for myself in the hope that things will get back to the way they were. I just have no choice but to move forward with it. And I think that was a key acceptance part as well. And how can I then make the best? As I said, how can I make the best of this? And I think in certain things you understand, it's like, well, these things, once you're able to kind of work through that victim mindset, it's always like that kind of cliche where everything happens for a reason. And one of the sayings, like, these things happen for you, not to you. And I think once you kind of feel into that as well, it has certainly a huge impact, because the lessons are, it's trying to show you in instances where you're not free, where you're holding yourself back, where you're limiting yourself. And certainly these were kind of key mindset shifts, certainly for me, in sort of trying to accept my trauma. That what was the lesson it was trying to teach me? The lesson was I didn't want to live as the old person I was anymore, that kind of just 9 to 5 repeat kind of format. It was a chance of, okay, now I've got this literal second chance on life. What do I want to do? How do I want to make the best of it? And I think doing that, it just allows you to take more control. You don't allow your victim mindset, you don't allow the trauma to kind of dictate how you feel like you need to live your life. It puts the control back into how you want to do things and try new things, go out there and do things that you wouldn't thought that you'd do before. It's almost like being the 2.0 version of yourself, but ultimately the way you actually really wanted to live it. And I think that was kind of the lessons that came from that. It's like, okay, you've kind of wasted your time here. I don't regret stuff that's happened then, but it's just, okay, well, what do I want to do now that's the benefit for myself and for my future? And I think ultimately that was it, just changing that mindset of stop being so angry. Life is shit. It can get bad, but it's not going to be like that forever. And realizing that these things are happening for you, they're there for a reason, to show you instances where you are holding yourself back, where you're not free. So understanding, okay, what do I need to go through, what do I need to feel to understand, okay, this is what I feel like I'm missing, this is what I can do going forward, that ultimately puts me in control of my own destiny in theory. And certainly making the shift, certainly from I feel from a trauma perspective, as who do I want to now be because of this? Like you don't want, I'm guessing you wouldn't want to sit there in your own pity party. You're there with these lessons, like, okay, well, this is what I'm going through, this is what I want to do now. How can I then serve to help other people with this? And certainly it's kind of one of the reasons I make these videos. It's not to say what I'm doing is gospel and everyone should listen to me. It's more of a perspective of showing that things are possible just by making simple mindset shifts, and what works for me may work for you. It may reinforce the stuff that you're doing is working for you, and then keep with it. Or other times, maybe something that worked for me may work for you if you alter the pattern of your way of thinking and getting yourself out of your own belief system, the way you're change the way you're talking to yourself and listening to yourself. Because I feel that, as I said, there's lessons here that will just naturally help you evolve into the next version of yourself, and ultimately I think the person that you really want to be. So I think as soon as you kind of help get yourself out that victim mindset, it's just creating a newer version of you, and that way you can use that also to help others to do that same thing, that are on the path that you were perhaps on, and you see them going through the same thing, that you're there to guide others, just to point them in the right direction, and also just be there with empathy and just listen to them. A lot of times people just want to get their frustrations out. I think that you going through that allows you to be that source, and also source of inspiration for other people as well. And I know the helpful results it gave me by finally finding acceptance in my condition, of seeing it as, well, now, like I say, who's the person I want to be because of this? And it's all like that, again, just more cliches, like life is too short. And I know a lot of people say that, and living your best life and things like that, but it's true. Like, a lot of times we spend so much time and energy giving it away on just pointless stuff, useless stuff that's not going to benefit ourselves moving forward, that I think when you realise that the life is too short, you stop trying to live the life you think you should be living, and then start living the life that you actually want to live. And that, I think, gives huge freedom in that puts you in complete control. And because of that, you start trying new things. It's like the new version of you. You get out of your comfort zone. You realise that there's more freedom, removing some of that limitations just by getting out of your comfort zone, experiencing certain new things, and seeing what the new version of you is capable of. And then you just, because of that, you're living your life first. I know when I sort of come through my stuff, that's when I stopped caring what people were thinking. And that was not in a bad, negative way, but I just stopped caring what society perceived people should be living, like what they should look like, their views on your life, for example. I wouldn't care if someone had a view of the way I was doing something or living a certain aspect of my life, because if they certainly had issues with it, I just put that as, well, they're clearly going through their own issues, but rather than working on it, they're projecting it onto me. And I just kind of held space for that. There was no judgment per se. It was just understanding that all I needed to do was just hold space for them and don't let it affect me. Why why would I want to give that person my energy when it's my own to have? I just do a detriment to myself by giving all that energy away. And I think as soon as you keep that for yourself, it's absolutely huge. I've said it in the past where one of the videos I saw from like Aaron Doetry was be the hero of your own movie, not the bit part in someone else's. And I think this is what allowed me to do that as well, in a way of separating, it's not turning myself off to the outside world and people, but understanding if people had issues, I could be there to support for that. I didn't have to take on that energy. And these are kind of things that I learned just through my kind of journey of acceptance of my condition. And I think once you have that, you are, as I said, you are the one that's in control and you have the power. And with that, I feel like anything, again, more cliche stuff, just anything's possible because you're opening up yourselves to possibilities through no longer holding yourself back, through no longer choosing to be the victim. I mean, one of the visual aspects as well that can be really helpful is a lot of times through these limiting thoughts, these victim mindsets, we're putting ourselves in our own kind of self-prison. And I think when you realise that you actually have the key to open it the whole time, it's almost just this visualising yourself just going, it's like, well, I'm kind of done here. I'm just going to open the door and just walk out. And it's, I think just visualising that is also a show that you have the power all along and you're in control. You don't have to be in that prison if you don't want to be. And I think that was, again, one of the many key things that came through sort of being able to accept my condition and allow me to kind of not kind of survive but thrive in what I'm trying to do. So hopefully this video helped in sort of little tips that could help you find acceptance in certain things that you're trying to overcome, or just provide, even if not, just the sake of someone is going, the chances are someone is going through what you're going through. It's never a isolated journey, even though it might feel like it sometimes. There'll always be people there, and there'll always be people that have gone through it and have gone through it and overcome. So it shows there is encouragement and a way forward if it's happening for you and not to you. So hopefully you found that useful. I mean, as usual, give the video a like, subscribe. There's more video content on things like this. And yeah, see you soon.